All right. So, what would you like me to talk about? I'd like you to please testify to your movements in this room until the murder occurred.
All right, let's try this your way for a change. But if what she has to say turns out to be a waste of time, I'll place her under arrest faster than you can howl "No" in a silly British accent.
As you wish, and it will be very silly when I do it. It will be the silliest no you've ever heard. As I said earlier, I was assigned to guard duty on the Alabahst embassy. After I saw the steel samurai up on his way towards the ambassador's office, I returned to the rose garden for a bit and checked up on the security situation. After all the preparations were in place, I was called back by Ambassador Alba to his office. Okay, Franziska, I want us to make this clear from the very beginning. So what I wish to confirm is that the only time span in which you were in this office was before the murder occurred. Is that correct? Yes, of course. I see. For now, the only way that I can see for us to break out of the situation is to ask Franziska about her testimony in more detail. Basically, we're going to always be pressing and press all of the things until she says something that she didn't reveal for the first time, because Franziska, why don't you just tell us what happened? As I said earlier, I was assigned to guard duty in the Alabahst embassy.
Hold it!
I thought your duty was to fact-find anything you could about the smuggling ring. Yes, that was my job. But upon hearing that the Yotagarasu had sent a calling card to the embassy, Ambassador Alba called upon us to protect the embassy instead. That an incident 7 years ago. Have you forgotten what happened here back then? Anything related to that case we were involved in appears to be rather painful for her. Not exactly one I can readily forget myself. It looks like you remember the case after all. Of course I do. I inspected every location, every possible escape route, and every aspect of the police's security detail. I did all that. Then after that, after I saw the steel samurai off on his way towards the ambassador's office.
Hold it!
So you were at the theater as well. Yes, and I suppose you were also there as well, watching that stage show, the one you like so much? Well, yes, I guess. I don't remember. So Franziska was there. Well, after the show was over and I saw the steel samurai off, I returned to the rose garden for a bit and checked up on the security situation.
Hold it!
Why did you need to confirm the degree of preparation for even the speech? For security's sake, of course. What other reason could I have had? No one knew just how the Yotagarasu had planned on getting in, right? Yes, I suppose you're right. And in the end, the Yotagarasu did choose to appear in the rose garden, even if it did turn out to be nothing more than a shadow. Ach, who would have thought that she would use a shadow? Calm down, Franziska. She must still be nursing a grudge over the fact that she couldn't figure it out herself. Sorry that I made you look so stupid. Anyway, there was no one in the rose garden, and we were aware that the speech was set to start soon thereafter. After all the preparations were in place, I was called back by Ambassador Alba to his office.
Hold it!
At that time, the Master Second's body had yet to be found in this room. Is that correct? That's right. But Ambassador Alba was here. One could hardly miss his rather large presence.
A criminal will say anything to get out of getting arrested. How do we know you're not lying?
Well, if you need proof, I'd be happy to oblige you.
Seriously?
Like I keep telling you. When I arrived at his office, Ambassador Alba was already here. He was standing by the flower box on the windowsill, watering his plants.
I can attest to that. I remember speaking with the lovely lady around that time here in my office.
Grrr. All right, then. Add that statement to your testimony, and let's hear some details.
So Ambassador Alba was in this room at the time, was he? When I arrived, Ambassador Alba was watering the flowers on the windowsill.
Hold it!
The flowers? For the sake of being thorough, I'd like to ask you something. How did you know that Ambassador Alba was watering his plants on the windowsill? And how do you know it wasn't just this crazy thing on my shoulder? What do you mean by that? The entrance to this room is on this side. However, the window is on the opposite side. If what you say is true, then when you entered the room, his body could have been like a wall. He would have been blocking your view of what he was doing. Isn't that not correct? Double negative, probably a typo. I suppose it was a bit hard to see around him. But fortunately for me, Ambassador Alba is not an immovable wall. I knocked before I entered, and as I did, he turned around to greet me with a watering can in his hand. So it's only natural to believe that he was watering his plants, right? I suppose. After his greeting, we spent a little time talking about his flowers. He had obtained them himself and is growing them with the utmost care, you know.
Yes, the plants in this room, they are all like my children.
The passion flowers in the flower box in the windowsill are growing beautifully too. All 4 of them are in full bloom. Miss Von Karma, what did you say just now? I said that the flowers are growing beautifully. What about that statement you do not understand? They are flowers, they grow, they are beautiful, they smell great. I like flowers, I am a girl, it is okay, Edgeworth. What do I not understand? I do not understand why a certain thing is the way it is. I'd like you to append that statement to your testimony. Very well. There were 4 large passion flowers in full bloom at the flower box. But there are 2. There are 2 large flowers in bloom. Not 4. There are 2. Were there more boxes? We are going to do in the present. I'd like to confirm this with you one more time. There were 4 passion flowers in bloom in that box, correct? Yes, I should hardly think I could have miscounted such eye-catching flowers. I know how to count to 4 Edgeworth! There must be a deeper meaning to this statement, and it appears that I must take a gamble on this meaning for me to make any progress. The Primitive statues were already switched by the time the murder happened. In light of that fact, what Franziska saw in this room before the crime is of incredible importance. Okay. There are 4 lights. Flowers. What do you say about this number of flowers? Franziska, for some odd reason, your testimony contradicts with this piece of evidence. It does appear that way.
Ha! I knew it! I knew we couldn't trust your words, sis!
Mr. Edgeworth! What are you doing discrediting Miss Von Karma like this?
Yes, sir! If you keep this up, she's gonna get taken away, sir. We all like her very much outside of jail. Even maybe take her whip away and then leave her outside of jail. Eek!
All I've done is state what I saw. I have made not a single mistake on my testimony. And for this, I am still under suspicion for murder. Is the number of flowers really all that important at this juncture, Miles? At the very least, it is a contradiction in this enigmatic case. One that I find hard to dismiss as irrelevant.
Ha! Then let's hear it, Mr. Prosecutor. What does the number of flowers have to do with anything? What does it prove?
I believe the answer to that will become clear if we were to examine that flower box. How did this contradiction come about? There must be something behind the discrepancy.
They're my beloved flowers. I've grown them with the utmost care. So I ask that you please be gentle with them as you examine them, Mr. Edgeworth.
I understand. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious-looking nook and cranny.
All right. Let's just tear out the flowers and throw them out the balcony. There's definitely holes where there used to be flowers. And probably something about the watering can as well.
This patch of soil looks as though it has had something removed from it.
What are you doing, Mr. Prosecutor? Why'd you clam up all of a sudden? I'm still here, waiting for an explanation, you know, and I'm looking pretty cool, so if you want to look at me, we could be friends.
Did you know, Agent Lang, flowers are best appreciated in silence? Shh. It looks like 2 things were pulled out of this flower box.
Okay. Let's look at the watering can.
This watering can has a rather robust design.
Mr. Edgeworth, why are you telling stuff we can clearly see for ourselves? We all have the same critique of the watering can. We all think that it's a robust design and that it looks pretty good. Plus, you keep wasting time talking about that. Miss Von Karma's gonna get arrested.
I'd better examine something else.
Okay.
The name of these flowers, I believe they're called passion flowers. Despite being called flowers, they're actually a species of vine. They appear to be growing well and are well supported by these plant supports.
Yeah, but no matter how I look at it, it looks like there are only 2 here to me. You realize, don't you, sis? Your little lie has failed you.
Ach, Mars Edgeworth. Hurry up and shut this man up for me already.
I suppose I will need to use some evidence to shut him up, won't I?
Oh.
I believe I have just the piece of evidence you require.
Oh, you do you? You have such confidence in the face of your current plight. But I highly doubt it'll last until the end.
You howl like a wolf, Agent Lang. But you will see if you have any bite to back up that bark after you see the evidence. The truth the passion flowers reveal can be seen in this piece of evidence.
I thought it was interesting that if you look at the flowers, they have a different colored little tip on the stake. They were talking about how the stakes are missing. And I think that might be the hair sticks, actually. There's some dirt on the tips. Can we examine that, just to get that? Hey, take a look at this, Mr. Edgeworth. There's dirt on here. It's totally ruining the beauty of the hair stick.
I suppose. Why is there dirt stuck on the end of a hair stick in the first place?
Unless Sheena had a particularly filthy scalp, I actually don't think these were hair sticks.
Sheena, who was supposedly in the ball the entire time, had these hair sticks on her that look exactly like the plant supports in this flower box. In other words, I believe it can be said that these hair sticks are, in actuality, support sticks for the passion flowers.
And so what? Is this really all that important to the case?
Of course it is. It means that we've found yet another item that was smuggled between the countries tonight.
Ayah!
Think about it logically, Agent Lang. These sticks were originally in Alabahst. But somehow they wound up in Sheena's hands, who was in Babal the whole night. So make no mistake, these sticks were smuggled somehow, just like the knife and statue.
Very well then. I want to hear from you exactly how they wound up in Babal.
How did these support sticks find their way to Babal, and why? There must be some reason as to why they ended up there. Aha! So that's why.
Tell the rest of us! Share with the rest of the class.
Agent Lang, if you would please take a look at this and tell me its shape.
Agent, another stick, isn't it?
And so it is. But the shape of the support sticks is what's important. So they, when used with something in this room, that's when it all comes into focus. And the object that completes the picture when used with the support sticks is...
the statue? Is it the crossbow? Did they shoot the sticks across with the crossbow? What's going on? I'm gonna try the crossbow.
That's a crossbow. Wait, you're not really suggesting.
I am. These hair sticks, or rather plant support sticks, they make for perfect arrows.
Ayah!
I've done it. I've found the common thread that connects the two offices. But this thread has yet to be completely untangled. Even using the arrows, how does this explain how the statues were transported?
Did they use the arrows and the wire, and then they MacGyvered themselves, what do you call it? A zip line? Furthermore, who could it have been who fired these sticks as arrows? There must be a common thread that ties all of these things together. Like a literal thread.
Mr. Prosecutor, hold up a second. You do realize what happens when you tie a statue to an arrow, right? They don't fly at all.
Okay.
So a ball statue was draped in the Alabahst's clothes and then shot over here? Even if you fired the arrows from this side, they wouldn't go far with a statue tied to them. I don't think I need to tell you that the primitive statues didn't sprout wings. You're a realist after all, aren't you?
The primitive statues didn't sprout wings. Of course they didn't.
Glad you understand. I feel much better already. I was afraid for a second that you were unaware of that crucial fact.
It's only crucial because you're under the belief that wings are necessary to this equation.
What?
You need to free your mind a bit more and let it fly like a bird on the wind. The primitive statues flew, but not on a wing. Allow me a bit of your time and I'll explain this mysterious phenomenon to you.
I think zipline is the answer.
So the ball statue was draped in the Alabahst's clothes and then shot over here?
Hold it!
But that incredible scene just happened to have been caught on film, resulting in this photo.
Ha! And what an incredible scene it was! This photo was taken by a freelance photojournalist, right?
Yes, so I hear.
And not every photojournalist is known to be honest, right? Especially not the ones that sell photos of spirits and giant creatures to tabloids.
Yes, I know what you mean. I've seen those sorts of photos many a time in court. Hoaxes. But there have been times when those photos have turned out to be telling the truth. If you had ever stood in a court of law, you would know that it's entirely plausible.
Ha! You really believe the stuff you're spewing right now? A courtroom certainly is a strange place, if what you say is true. But there really is something odd about that photo, no matter how you look at it. Even if you fired the arrows from the side, they wouldn't go far with a statue tied to them.
Hold it!
But we are in agreement that an arrow by itself would reach the other side, correct?
But just the arrow by itself is pretty meaningless, don't you think, Mr. Prosecutor?
Yeah?
Because the things they wanted to smuggle were a lot bigger than nothing. They were big statues, and they needed a big cereal.
No, that's not necessarily true.
What?
What I need right now is not further discussion of my conclusions. It's the launching of my own conclusions. What the shooter wanted to launch with the crossbow was not the statues themselves, but rather something a crossbow can launch that can be used to move the statues.
If it wasn't a statue that was tied to the arrows, then what did the crossbow launch?
Hold it!
We're gonna press it, and then probably just present the wire.
The thing the crossbow launched, allow me to show you the answer.
Well, come on then, show me what you got. But I warn you, I'll know when you're just bluffing.
This is what was launched from the Alabahst office with the crossbow.
Alright, okay. It's the wire.
Take that!
It was wearing a wire! Finally we have reached this point in our discussion. For I present to you that which was carried by the arrow from the crossbow.
I get it now, Mr. Prosecutor. I can see exactly what you're trying to say. You're saying that the wire was tied to an arrow and then shot into Mr. Cochin's office. All the way from the 5th floor of the Alabahst embassy down to the 3rd floor of the Babalese embassy. If what you're claiming is really what happened, I can see how Alabahst's primitive statue could be moved. Gravity could be used to move the statue down the wire from the 5th floor to the 3rd floor. But then, what about Babal's primitive statue? The dark shadow in this photo is clearly flying away from Babal, going in the opposite way of gravity from the 3rd floor of the Babalese embassy.
That's a really good point.
up to the 5th floor of the Alabahst Embassy. How do you explain that?
Aha, I think I finally see how the gears behind this whole trick works. Agent Lang, the motion used behind this trick, I wonder if perhaps you have yet to envision how it works in your head.
Motion? What motion?
This is the motion that was employed to smuggle the ball's Primiduck statue.
Swinging motion, bungee action. No, that would hit somebody down below. Did they have literal gears? Was there pulleys and stuff?
I believe it was done by a rotary motion. If the two statues were transported simultaneously.
Lucky guess, okay.
Simultaneously, get real! The statues would collide somewhere along the way.
Did I ever say that there was only one line of wire between the two offices? If you shot an arrow with the two ends of a wire tied to it, a circular belt can be formed.
Lang Z says, don't object and call a success what is beyond reasonability. Taking into account the tension difference between the two wires, the top one would sag too much to the point where the statues would collide anyway.
Agent Lang, as you know, the Primiduck statue is a one-of-a-kind national treasure, and the fact that the ball statue is a hollow replica of the real statue, it would naturally be lighter than the real one, meaning that my idea is very possible.
Lang Z says,
Whoa! Hoo!
Here's what I believe happened. Miss Yu and her mystery co-conspirator set themselves up in two different rooms. The co-conspirator bridged the rooms by shooting the two ends of the wire down on one arrow. Then the two of them covered the statues and proceeded to transport the statues. After the switch was completed, another arrow was fired, carrying the other end of the wire down to the ball, where it was to be disposed of. And to do that, Miss Yu hid it inside the grandfather clock, QED.
ha! Ha 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 ha! Q, grrr!
This proves it, right, Agent Lang? That I am not the killer.
Not yet, sis. I still haven't had my dessert yet. Right, Mr. Prosecutor?
The proof is in the pudding, as it were.
Pudding is a nice dessert. I like to eat it. I like it when it's bananas. So, do you think you can do it? Can you prove that what you said is what happened and give me banana pudding? Because remember, if you can't, I'll be taking a certain someone back home with me as a souvenir.
I agree that as long as there is no proof, my hypothesis remains just that. However, what I have laid out is no more mere hypothesis, for there is one more piece of evidence.
One more? This should be interesting. You think you have a piece of evidence that will turn your hypothesis into fact? Well then, let's see it, Mr. Prosecutor.
The thing that made it possible to create a circular belt out of a length of wire. I believe that it is right here in this very room. Now then, I believe this is what made the circular belt transportation method possible.
Oh. Is it the ceiling fan? Because the one in the other room was broken. They both had one. Let's try it.
Take that!
Ha! Looks like you dropped another bomb on us again.
The last piece to the trick are two pulleys. Precisely. The ceiling fans double as pulleys in this case. And thanks to the fact that there was one installed in each of the offices, the ceiling fans made for the perfect pulley set for the wire to run on.
Aroo!
This must be it. This is how the smugglers bypass the impenetrable security.
Ha! Ha 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 ha! Grr, you really are something else, Mr. Prosecutor. I bet you've figured it all out already, haven't you? You know who the big hotshot that set up this real-life stage show is, don't you?
The person who set up this rather large and complex stage show. needs to be someone who had foreknowledge of the existence of a ceiling fan in both the Alabastion and Baba Lee's offices, and that the passion flower support sticks could be used as arrows. The real mastermind behind this case.
Well, don't you dare make this wolf wait for his food.
Why are you so hesitant, Miles Edgeworth? If you can't say who it is, why don't you present something like you always do? A single point of the finger here, and the case will explode into an international incident. However, it's already too late for me to stop the forward momentum. It appears that I have no choice now but to rush in. There's a piece of evidence that will point us to who the mysterious mastermind is.
Samurai dogs. It's the samurai dogs. Old bag did it. She throw her away. Throw her in jail forever. Is it just the arrows? Because it sounds like we're leaning towards it being the ambassador. And so them being his flowers and his sticks means he's most likely the mysterious guy. So they're not support sticks. They've been arrows this whole time.
This smuggling could not have been possible without the use of the crossbow. Furthermore, the arrows that were shot by the crossbow were plucked, as it were, from the flower box in this very room. They were planted so long ago that the passion flowers had time to grow so big that Miss Von Karma didn't even notice the arrows when she visited this room today. On top of all this, the fact that the culprit knew that both offices had ceiling fans tells us that the person has very detailed information on the embassy's layout. So as you may have already guessed, the person I am accusing of hatching this plan is the person who grew the flowers in the flower box with the utmost care. Thus it can only be you, Quercus Albus. Are you out of your mind, Miles Edgeworth? I'm certain of what I am saying, and I am sure that he is the culprit.
Tell me, Mr. Prosecutor, what was the ambassador trying to accomplish by doing all that stuff you just outlined? Why in the world would he need to use a trick like that?
I understand your need to doubt me. However, there is one thing that stands out to me as very odd.
Just one thing, huh?
The one single insult Ambassador Alba sought to obtain. If we were to examine the focus of this complex trick, I believe we will finally find the answer to everything. Everything will become clear once we examine this piece of evidence. Why he needed to move the statues, maybe?
Is it the one that's real? Because it does come down to, if he had the real one, why would he want to not have the real one? Right? So that is really confusing, because you would think you would want to the other person have the fake one, so you could say, haha, you have the fake, I have the supremacy of having it. Or whatever. Let's try it.
I would fully understand the reasoning had the situation been the reverse. However, to go through the trouble of swapping the real Primidoc statue for the fake, I sense a very shady reason for such a bizarre action. And who better to ask for that reason than King Primidox himself?
I see. Ambassador, we'll be examining that statue now, with or without your permission.
Alright. I know there's a handprint on it. We found that before.
These are Mr. Cochin's fingerprints. The fact that they're on here suggests that this statue once belonged to Ball.
So it's smuggled from Ball to Alabahst, huh?
Why was there a need for them to smuggle it in? A shield, huh? There doesn't seem to be anything unusual about it.
I bet it's supposed to mean the guy's protecting something.
I don't think it's supposed to have that deep of a meaning behind it. In that case, what are we wasting time with this for? Let's look at some other area. Okay. The sword. With his sword drawn like that, there is an aura of valor and bravery around King Pimidux. He looks so cool standing around like that, with the sword stuck in the ground in front of him. Maybe I should try and come up with some cool pose, with like a shuriken or something. I'm seriously beginning to think that her real goal in life is to become a ninja.
Hey, Mr. Prosecutor, there isn't anything particularly odd about the sword, right?
No, not really. I suppose we should examine a different area of the statue now. This guy kind of looks like the Steel Samurai, don't you think? Maybe it's because they look alike that he was picked to be the Goodwill Ambassador. I suppose that's possible. Take a look at this area around the base of his neck. It looks like a gap. Hey, you're right! Maybe it's meant to be some kind of secret. That is possible to open the statue from the gap in its construction.
What?
Hurry up and open it, Miles! Alright, here goes. Wow, it really did open up! And it's full of coupons! Hey, what's this thing that fell out? I believe a more thorough examination of it is required. What in the... Is this...
Hey! Is this what I think it is?
It's a plate for making counterfeit bills! Somehow, it appears that we've at long last arrived at the exit to this complex labyrinth. We finally hold within our hands one of the counterfeit money plates, and the reason why the replica was smuggled into Alabahst to begin with. The Pimidux statue can only be handled by the ambassador or the secretariat, and the replica is nothing more than a hollow shell covered in gold. These two circumstances make the statue the ideal object in which to hide contraband. After receiving the statue containing the counterfeit plate from Shina, the ambassador had the misfortune of accidentally running into Damask II. Surprised by the thief, the ambassador raised the replica statue at Damask II and... Kwong! Kabong! But in order to frame the Steel Samurai of the murder, he covered the samurai sword in blood. Well, Ambassador Alba?
You're the leader of the smuggling ring? My country is a mess! And it's all because of you?
You're the one who killed Damask II? This old tree man? Answer us.